Welcome to Learning is the New Working. It's a podcast about the future of learning at work and the people who are helping us get to that. This episode is part of our Season 5, which is our Learning Leaders series. In this series, we talk to influential leaders in the workplace learning industry, in learning technology, and in related academic fields who we think are breaking new ground, running radical experiments, and generally moving our discipline forward. Today's guest is Julie Dervin. She's head of global learning and development at Cargill. Cargill is probably one of the largest companies that you've never heard of. It's $113 billion in revenue. It's 160,000 professionals in 70 countries. And it's a 150-year-old company that's not a household name, but is a critical player in the food supply chain with businesses in the worlds of food, agriculture, nutrition, bioindustrial, and risk management. In her current role, Julie's been working to transform learning and development at Cargill for the last 2 years. She leads execution of the new L&D vision and strategy in order to accelerate organizational learning and a culture of learning inside the company. What struck me most about her transformational journey is how she and her team have adopted a really digital mindset. They've embraced a partnership with their IT team that I think is quite unusual, and they've borrowed from them approaches such as agile development, DevOps practices, and a distributed architecture model, an innovation process that she's then applied to the L&D domain. We talk about learning culture at Cargill, the digital transformation of learning in general, and how she thinks about the evolving mission of L&D and the future of workplace learning. This episode is sponsored by the Future Workplace Academy, where they develop you, your team, and your organization for the future of work. The Future Workplace Academy is a curated collection of 5-week online courses. These are cohort courses to upskill HR, HRIS, team members, and leaders for the future of work. The Future Workplace Academy is designed by and for HR and HRIS team members, with all online courses guided by an advisory board, which is led by the Future Workplace organization. Julie Dervin and myself and a team of other chief learning officers are working on a course which will be part of the Academy in September. You can enroll and check out the details of the Academy at www.futureworkplace.com/academy.
Julie Dervin. I'm head of global learning and development at Cargill. It's June 30th, 2020.
Yes, 2020. What a year.
Indeed.
First of all, how are you and your family and your team doing?
I'm doing great. After the initial adjustment of 100% work remotely and that whole gift of choice is taken away.
Yeah.
And you get on with it. Doing great. Family's doing great. Kids are out of school for the summer, so that's always fun. And, our team at Cargill is doing great as well. We have a very resilient team and work for an organization that really cares for its employees. So we're all doing fine. Thank you.
Yeah, and an important part of the whole food chain. We'll get to that, but thanks anyway for your time. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation. We're going to start with some quick questions just to sort of sketch out what you do for a living. And I always start with a question: where in the world do you live and work, and why?
So I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and my career brought us here back in 2008, and so this is This is where we've been for, I think, almost 12 years now.
Great. And your job title, and describe briefly the kind of work you do.
Sure. I'm the head of global learning and development for Cargill, and my team and I are responsible for building the capabilities that Cargill needs to realize its purpose and execute its business strategies.
Great. Maybe, I mean, it's a monster company, but not necessarily a household name. And we have a lot of listeners who are outside the US as well. Maybe you could just kind of sketch out for us the kind of business that Cargill does.
Sure, I'm happy to. So we are in the agricultural, animal nutrition and protein, food, and financial and industrial segments. So we have a very diverse portfolio of industries that we are in, and we're in over 125 different countries is where we serve customers. From an employee standpoint, we have 160,000 employees in over 70 countries. Our country is over 150 years old, and our purpose is to nourish the world in a safe, responsible, and sustainable way.
Yeah, we're definitely going to come back to purpose. I'm really fascinated by that. But just to kind of finish off the outline here,
hmm
what would you say is the sort of talent landscape at Cargill? What kind of people do you employ? What kind of skills are you building for the future? What does that talent landscape look like?
hmm So, if we look at the makeup of our workforce, the easiest way to depict it is we have about 60,000 employees that are what we would call professional office type workers, and about 100,000 employees that make up our manufacturing workforce. And and then if we look at geographically, about 58,000 of those employees are in our Asia Pacific region, about 46,000 in North America, another 35,000 employees in Latin America, and about 21,000 employees in our EMEA region. So that's the geographic breakout there.
Yeah, that's a
And
real spread.
yeah, yeah. So we're all over the place. Scale is very important for us, and the ability to reach diverse global audiences are very important to us.
And in terms of how L&D is configured at Cargill, are you centralized or decentralized? What's your sort of organizational context, and how do you think about your team's sort of mission and strategy?
hmm So I would call our configuration more of a federated model. And so what that means at Cargill, because I know that can mean many things depending on your organization, is HR really owns L&D as a capability for Cargill. So what does that mean? It means the vision, the strategy, the core infrastructure that
Mhm.
enables learning and development in the organization, the governance. And so we also have the portfolio of learning programs and solutions that we are accountable for, but we have other areas of the organization that are accountable for different types of learning, education, and training. So, for example, our legal group owns our compliance training program.
Mm.
Our business operations and supply chain organization owns the real highly technical training that enables the skills in a lot of our manufacturing environments. So, when we say a federated model, we have different types of content ownership that sit in various areas of the organization. We've been trying to get very clear on who owns what type of learning so that we can move away from all the redundant creation of content. Uh, but HR, at the end of the day, owns the capability. So the vision, the strategy, that infrastructure, which is the shared services, our technology infrastructure, our governance. So hopefully that gives you a sense of how we're structured.
Yeah, got it. Superb. Let's talk about the business then. Let's talk about the forces at work on the business. So we're going to talk here about change and what you've been doing to kind of reset learning and the learning culture at Cargill, but I think it's good to give some context. And when I think about agriculture, I'm far from an expert on it, but obviously, there are some really wicked forces at work on the world of agriculture. I think about climate change,
Hmm.
water resources, the shift from to sort of technical modern farming practices, food insecurity. I mean, these are global sort of forces at work, and I wonder how, if at all, that's impacted the work of Cargill and the sort of context that you operate in.
Hmm. Yeah, I think just like many organizations, all of these external forces are having a significant impact on Cargill and the way Cargill serves its customers, how we, the experience we create for our employees, our ability to leverage modern technology. All of these external forces have created pressures on Cargill. And so, for the last 5 to 7 plus years, we have been undergoing significant transformation. Transformation from a broad, standpoint across the corporation,
Hmm.
and transformation within our global job families and functions and within our businesses. So, change, transformation, that has been probably one of the most used words
Yeah,
internally within Cargill in the last 5 to 7 years. And all while doing that, working to build new capabilities in the organization or modernizing, capabilities that, once we may have been world class in, but because of the advancements in disruptive technologies, we have to now look at how we modernize some of those capabilities. So, significant impact to Cargill, which creates a lot of opportunity for learning to play a role.
got it. Let's sort of dig into that. You'd mentioned before Cargill has a purpose statement. I'm really interested in purpose statements. It's a separate piece of work that I'm doing, and yours is to nourish the world in a safe, responsible, and sustainable way, which I think reflects some of these changes going on around you as an organization. And as you said, it's a historic company, and yet science and technology, modern science and technology, is obviously key to success in the future. How does this sense of purpose play out in the work that you do? Is it useful that Cargill has that sense of purpose? And perhaps you can talk to it as an employee and then as somebody who's trying to drive culture change in the organization. What does that sort of purpose statement mean to you?
Sure. And it means everything. Keeping Cargill's purpose top of mind when thinking about why we do what we do is really core to why I personally have stayed with Cargill for the past 12 years.
Hmm.
Any time where I have question or thinking about my career or thinking about what may be next, all I have to do is really think about the purpose and, what we are doing at Cargill and what we're here to do at Cargill. And for me personally, I can't think of anything more noble than, nourishing the world, and doing it in that safe, responsible, and sustainable way. As far as what does it mean to what we do in learning, I think now more than ever, it has been more clear as to the connection between what we do in L&D, so building the capabilities that the organization needs to realize its purpose and execute its strategies. Now more than ever, can we connect what we do in L&D to how we enable Cargill's overall purpose? And if our workforce and our people do not have the skills to execute the strategies and serve the customers and the communities that we have commitments to, um, then it creates barriers and obstacles for us in achieving our purpose. And so, um, I was just having a conversation with my team a couple weeks ago and talking about how it's never been more clear than it is today, our connection to enabling our purpose and that direct line connection between learning and development and building our employee skills to keep them relevant and employable, and how that